Hey everyone, this is another episode of the AI New Tech Podcast. This is your host, Walt Alabi. We're going to be going into a conversation that was had between Joe Rogan and Mark Zuckerberg a couple of weeks ago. This is where Mark Zuckerberg kind of alluded to some very interesting facts, but the conversation was just basically about technology and how this technology is going to affect our lives and how this technology potentially can make the world a better place, right? So we'll start diving into the conversation. But one of the major things that came out of this conversation was Mark Zuckerberg alluding to the fact that software engineers down the road, sometime this year, can be replaced by AI. And if that doesn't bother you, it does bother me. It should bother everybody because if you can replace software engineers, you can replace everybody else. But having said that, let's actually dive into the clip itself where he talked about it. Now, I just wanted to do this for the sake of context. I wanted to give it proper context it deserves because a lot of things on social media are taken out of context. I wanted you to see the context of the conversation. Like I saw this go a tad bit viral in different communities, right? So I wanted my viewers, my listeners to have the exact context of the conversation because it was a long conversation, over 2 hours, going on 3 hours conversation, close to 3 hour conversation. So I want you to get the context of what he was saying because in every minute or so, he's always talking about something new, something interesting, and something intriguing. But I want you to get the context in which he said what he said so that you understand where he was coming from and the role that competition plays in all of this. So, having said that, let's dive into the clip. So, I'm going to start a little bit from some seconds, some minutes earlier, so that you can get the context of the conversation properly.
Physical world and a digital world anymore. We're in 2025. It's one world. Like these things should get blended.
God, that's such a weird concept, but it's true. I mean, that's where we're headed. We're certainly headed into deeper and deeper integration. It's not like things are moving away. We're headed to deeper and deeper integration with technology and AI, and it's inevitable. It seems like it's on this march, and there's not a lot we're going to be able to do to stop that march. Just we got to hope that the right people are in control of AI when it becomes God,
or that it becomes widely available. I mean, I kind of liked the theory that it's only God if only kind of like one company or government controls it, right? It's like if you were the only person who had access to a computer and the internet, you would have this like inhuman power that everyone else didn't have because you could use Google and you could like
right?
get access to all this stuff. But then when everyone has it, it makes us all better, but it's also like kind of an even playing field.
This is so true. And this is one of those beautiful things about living in this time, right? This is so true. Imagine you having the computer and the internet back in the 1970s or in the 1950s or in 1901. You had the internet and you had a computer, so you had access to Google, you had access to all this technology of today. You would be perceived as a god, right? Because you would know everything about everything. If anybody asks you any question, you could Google it and give them the answer. But since it's ubiquitous, it's everywhere, all of a sudden it's not a big deal anymore, right? So, do you know how many billions of dollars went into the engineering and the creation of your Google Maps? Have you ever, because it's freely available, most of us don't ever think about that, right? Do you know how much money was sunk into the research, R&D, research and development for Google Maps that you use so freely? So these tools are with us today and we have access to them, most of which are actually free. And we don't really value them as much as we would have. Imagine if Google was only available to the super ultra wealthy. So I like this perspective on the idea of artificial intelligence that once it becomes available to everybody, then we go from there. So, and then brings me, I'm going to do another podcast episodes why all these companies are making a lot of their technology or what a lot of their AI models uh, open open source, right? So why are they making them open to the public? There are a lot of factors. One of them is helping these technologies become better, right? So having said that, the idea here is that if everybody has access to AI, then it's no longer a big deal. So I really like that concept that if everybody has access to it, it's not really a big deal at that point. So let's hear him further.
So that's kind of what we're going for with this whole open source thing. Is I don't think that there's going to be like one AI. I certainly don't think that there should be one company that controls AI. I think you like want there to be a diversity of different things and a diversity of people creating um, different things with it. I mean, some of it will be kind of serious and helping you think through things. I think, like with anything on the internet, a lot of it is just going to be funny and like fun and content, and people are going to create agents that are like AIs that are entertaining, and they'll pass them around almost like content, where it's like just like you pass around like a reel or a video, and you're like, this thing is fun. Like in the future, like a video, it's not interactive. You watch it and you're consuming it, but I think a lot of more entertainment in the future will be inherently interactive, where someone will kind of sculpt an experience or an AI, and then they'll show someone, it's like, oh, this is funny, but like it's not necessarily that I'm going to interact with that AI every day. It's like, okay, it's funny for 5 minutes, and then you pass it along to your friends. And so I don't know. I think you want the world to have all these different things, and I think that's probably also, from my perspective, the best way to make sure that it doesn't get out of control is to make it so that it's pretty equally distributed.
I think the problem that people have with it is not even whether or not it gets equally distributed. It's that if it becomes sentient and it goes on its own, the fear that people have, the general fear that we're going to become obsolete, is that human beings are essentially creating a superior version of higher intelligence that will be powered by quantum computing and connected to nuclear reactors, and it's going to have like this ungodly ability to, well, first of all, they've already shown that.
So the powerful point that Rogan just made about artificial intelligence is such a very important point. Why? Because it's not that it won't be. So Mark Zuckerberg came with the concept, and I liked it too, where he said things like the AI is going to be widely available. So one of the problems is not necessarily it being widely available, but it being AI being widely available is still better than for it to just be in the hands of a few. So that's still better. But when you extrapolate a little bit further, when you zoom out a little bit further, what's the real problem? What are the problems with artificial intelligence? And one of the problems is what he talked about. Now, I've talked about AI sentience in the previous episode of this podcast. I've gone into the concept of what it means for an AI model to become sentient. Sentient comes from the Latin word sentir. It's in different languages, also in Italian and a couple of other languages, but it comes down to the ability to sense, to feel, to experience, right? So that's like the root idea. So senses comes from sentiment, comes from sentir, comes to become sentience, right? So it really means for the AI model to feel. So when an AI model starts feeling, starts having its own thoughts, starts having its own ideas, what's to say that those thoughts, ideas, and feelings align with those of humanity, right? That's where your every sci-fi movie, your iRobot, your Terminator, that's the disconnect, right? How do you keep something as a super intelligent being aligned with the needs of humanity? Now, when we say the wants of humanity, really, we're really talking about the wants of the makers, right? Or the makers of that AI model. So anyway, that is really the issue, one of the major issues of artificial intelligence, but it's still a better world if everybody has access to these AI technologies and not just a privileged few. So it's still a way, way better world. Is that at least that's one of the solutions. But the bigger question, when you look at it from a high point, a high vantage point, the bigger issue is what happens when AI becomes so intelligent, becomes sentient. Now, there's so many things he said there with a nuclear facility. So these AI models need immense amounts of power. So you need probably a nuclear facility to power them. Then they have infinite data structures. You can keep on creating those as much as you like. That can now be used. You can now use a quantum computer, which is, just think of a quantum computer like a super computer. I'll talk about that in another episode of this podcast down the road. But just think of it like a super computer. You put that on top of that. So now the output is your AI super intelligence. So you put that equation together. Your output is your AI super intelligence or your AI general intelligence. How does that listen to us? How does that obey us as human beings? How does that align with us? Eventually, will it always be aligned with us? It's a start of being aligned with us at least. But will it always be aligned with us? What about if it becomes sentient and has its own thoughts, its own ideas, its own ambitions, its own dreams, its own goals? So when that happens, what happens to us as human beings? And that's where you now start hearing about the gorilla problem in artificial intelligence. But let's go a little bit further in this whole uh, podcast to see what they say about everything else. And this is where he starts alluding to. He sets up a question, a situation, and makes Mark Zuckerberg talk about software engineers being replaced by AI.
AI has learned code. I mean, this is one of the things that OpenAI said that
Oh yeah,
they're learning how to
Yeah.
code their own AI.
I
Which
think
is-
this year, probably in 2025, we at Meta, as well as the other companies that are basically working on this, are going to have an AI that can effectively be a sort of mid-level engineer that you have at your company that can write code. And once you have that, then in the beginning it'll be really expensive to run, then you can get it to be more efficient, and then over time we'll get to the point where a lot of the code in our apps and including the AI that we generate is actually going to be built by AI engineers instead of people engineers. But I don't know. I think that'll augment the people working on it. So I mean, my view on
Yeah. It's definitely augment the people working on it. That depends on who's left, right? Who's left in the organization after everybody else gets laid off. That's the work that is deemed not necessarily as important as a few people that need to work with the AI. But boom, here you hear the whole conversation. So note a couple of things. Mark Zuckerberg was reacting to the fact that OpenAI already has an AI model that codes, right? So it's very important for you. So a couple of things he talked about. He talked about it was Joe Rogan that alluded to the fact that okay, these AI models are going to be able to write code very soon, and OpenAI already has something that is doing it. Then he chimes in because again, he's there to promote Meta. If I was him, I'm there to promote my company, right? So I'll do exactly what he's doing. So he highlighted the fact that Meta is also doing the same thing, and by this year, by the year 2025, they should be able to have AI models that can write their own code and do these things. Now, a couple of things he also mentioned. He talked about efficiency, right? Are these things going to be efficient? They're not going to be efficient at the beginning, but they're going to be eventually. So that probably gives everybody some time, some breathing room to kind of catch up with what's happening. So this is not going to just happen overnight because it's going to take the AI model some time to become efficient and not so costly. But even when he talks about this efficiency and cost in that sense, I'm guessing that even the highest cost for an AI model that codes is still going to be like so much less than a human being. So it's going to be still more expensive to get a human being to code than to get these AI models to code because these guys are going to the AI model works 24/7. The human being works like 8 hours or 12 hours tops a day, right? So then another thing you need to notice that it's a competition. So because if Meta doesn't do it, somebody else is going to do it, right? If he doesn't do it, OpenAI is going to do it. If OpenAI doesn't do it, somebody else is going to do it. And if they don't do it, how will they compete? So it's about competition because in the world, companies are competing for their life, right? Think about the fact that there are so many companies that are not existing today because they didn't change and compete. Change and competition is one of the reasons why companies need to keep on existing. And let's say there are two companies. One is using your traditional software engineers that work 40 hours a week. Another guy is using an AI model, AI models that work 247. Eventually this company is going to outcompete this company because this company is going to deal with human beings. Their parents get sick. Oh, I couldn't come to work today because my dad got sick. They couldn't come to work today because I had to take my kid to school. I couldn't come to work today because I had to do something. Why deal with all that when you can deal with an AI model that doesn't have children, that doesn't have any other role or functionality except to serve you and to work on your apps and to work on your code? What would you, as a business owner yourself, what would you prefer? Now, the good thing, and this is the me being an optimist as well, the good thing here is that you also have the ability. So if you're able to increase your productivity as a company, you as a human being need to be able to start learning to increase your own productivity, to start using artificial intelligence to your benefit. That's, you see this the idea. So the human beings that begin to adopt artificial intelligence and start using artificial intelligence are going to be the human beings in the same category of those companies that are going to start out competing their contemporaries that are not using the same technology. So this is that whole conversation again. So think about this as 1901 all over again, and one set of people are using artificial intelligence and the other people are not using artificial intelligence. you're going to see how much more this person is going to get done, opposed to this person that is not using artificial intelligence. So that's one of the core tenets I get from this conversation. And all of this is not to scare anyone, but just to prepare you with the information you need to understand the future, to understand the world that's being created every single day, right? Again, a lot of this, as somebody said, we have 1,000 days before this becomes a real issue. Some people said it's already become an issue. But what I would dare say is that learning about these things, understanding these things, understanding these concepts, understanding artificial intelligence. So I go into depth for educational purposes and speak in a layman's terms so that everybody understands what is AI, what is artificial intelligence. If you go through my catalog of episodes, you're going to see those concepts, right? So you begin to understand so you can properly adapt, so you can properly position your family to be able to win in this very competitive world of artificial intelligence and new technology. Having said that, my name is Wat Alabi, and this is the AIandNewTech Podcast. Check us out for more episodes. Please like, subscribe, listen to us wherever you listen to your podcast. Cheers.